music's such a great outlet to help us connect with ourselves and with each other. I like to think of this song as sort of the storm before the sun comes back. We feel this wide range of emotions, throughout the human experience. And so music is one of the things I think that creates a sharp distinction and really makes us human. I wanted to tell the stories that the present day Augustine, if you will, wants to tell.
Why did you choose to tell the story in a less straightforward manner?
I think anxiety and mental health challenges are very rarely straightforward.
Welcome back to AD Unplugged. Today we have a songwriter from southwestern PA. He's well-versed in the art of storytelling. It's Augustine. How are you today, Augustine?
I am very well. How are you?
Well, I'm good. Happy to have you here.
Thrilled to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about your view of songwriting and its place in your life?
It's an outlet. I got a 9-to-5. I got enough things to keep me busy. It's a way to express myself, a way to be introspective and to tell the stories that are important in my life, the stories that I feel are pertinent and worth telling. And it's just something that brings me great joy and fulfillment. So it's something I've really enjoyed getting back into.
That's great. Can you tell us what song you chose for today and why?
I chose She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining. It has by far and away been the song I feel like has resonated with the most people as I've recorded, released, and then continued to play it live frequently. It's a song that delves into some pretty serious subject matter around, the protagonist is a woman dealing with anxiety and depression, and the song's kind of an observation of how that presents in her life and in the lives of the people around her. Not only myself, but many people in my life have had struggles with mental health, and I just want to be a part of normalizing those conversations and telling that story because it's important.
It is definitely important, and I think this song is easy to, in a way, relate to if you've had a friend that's went through it. I know definitely when I heard it the first time, it brought up a lot of memories for me. So. But it's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
As always on AD Unplugged, we ask the artist to perform one of their original songs, and then we do an exclusive interview with a line-by-line breakdown. Without further ado, here's Augustine performing his song, She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining.
She's only sleeping when it's raining. Can't find the peace in the sunshine. It ain't worth no explaining. It's been this way for quite some time. She's only sleeping when it's raining. Rolling thunder, she pays no mind. Everyday tasks, they are so draining. Wishes she could sit and rest a while. No one can remember when it all began. Desperation, they don't wanna lose a friend. And everyone thinks that they know how to help. But they never really listen, never let her be herself. She's only sleeping when it's raining. Can't feel the pain when you're asleep. She's only sleeping when it's raining. Helps turn the page to the next day. She's only sleeping when it's raining. So afraid it'll always be this way.
Beautiful performance. Thank you so much for coming out and doing that here on the set. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to perform under Augustine? Why is that your name you go by?
Yeah, it is a stage name, but it's also my middle name and a family name. I am the third named after my father and grandfather. So it's a way to pay homage to that and to still quite literally be my name in a way, but to differentiate, I think, the solo project, the songwriting, everything that sort of goes into that apart from my own life, and just to give it something that I think stands out a little bit more than just a standard first name, last name.
I think that's very interesting because I go by AD, which sounds like my name AD. But while it's still reminiscent of my name, my first name, and my last name when it was my maiden name, it gives it the separation that I feel like is necessary, at least for me, to feel like I don't need my whole identity wrapped up in it. If you're going to Google my name, like what's going to come up, like is it going to be my achievements here, my failures here, my songs here? I don't know. I thought that was interesting when you were talking about that in a prior conversation, how you chose a family name, but you also, in a way, chose a different name.
Yeah, and I think separating, one from the other and allowing it to have its own sort of persona, and it's a way to sort of pick it up and put it down. I mean, songwriting and music is a deep part of yourself, but it's a way to, and I think it allows me to kind of be ambitious and less anxious about trying new things, and it's fun. It's just it just felt right.
Felt right. I like that. So you've told me that you have a passion and you feel like a talent for communicating with people. Can you tell me how this talent connects to your art as a songwriter?
Yeah. I think so much of the music that I've grown up adoring and appreciating is written and performed by great storytellers. And I so appreciate music. Can move you in so many ways, but sometimes the stories are really what grab you and pull you in. I think of an artist like Jim Croce and songs like Bad Bad Leroy Brown, Don't Mess with Jim, and there's a real story that's being told within the song. And my background is heavy in communication, whether it be schooling, experiential learning, things like that. And I have a passion for communicating and connecting with people, and music's just another avenue to continue to do that.
That's great. So I want to touch on that a little more. You actually studied communication in college. Can you tell me, you said, or what I noted at least, was communication, journalism, and philosophy. Can you tell me about, did the information you learned there, does it translate into your songwriting, or have any impact on your identity as a songwriter?
Sure. I know we've joked in previous conversations, my proclivity to use, a wide array of different language and verbiage.
Proclivity.
And things like that.
Yeah.
So I enjoy flexing that a little bit in the music, I suppose. Trying to write lyrics I think will really connect with people. And yes, using, words that are flowery, creating imagery, things like that, but also ones that feel like they can deeply resonate and connect with people, where they feel like that story is almost a part of their story as well. And then, the background in psychology is a lot of understanding people and understanding what makes them tick and what makes them think and feel the way they do. And, music's such a great outlet to help us connect with ourselves and with each other.
Overall, do you feel like when you said tick and behave and stuff like that, do you feel like that has made you more sympathetic? And in being more sympathetic, does that, come out in songwriting?
I think more so empathy, especially with a song like She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining. Certainly I have the bias of my own experience working through anxiety in my own life. But the song really captures the way that others feel about how do you reach out and help. And a lot of that is listening. A lot of that is taking the cues from the person who's struggling. And I find that active listening is a skill that I try to apply to a ton of the different endeavors that I have in my life. And a part of that is, with the venture into music, I listen to much more music, and when I connect with songwriters, I'm listening to them much more than I'm talking.
I'm listening too. That's interesting. So I have a little ramp up to this next question. I started to write songs in high school, and I started to go around to all the open mics. My poor mother and father drug me all over the town and the neighboring town to open mics, and they were very supportive, but my mother always told me, this has to be plan B. You need to make plan A something a little more stable, and have that work. And when that works, you can do this as plan B. And for me as an individual, that was very good advice, because through studying and becoming proficient in something else, I felt like I became a more complete person, and that more complete person could then express and approach songwriting from an angle that I thought was more mature, and that I personally didn't suffer as much in a way. Now, when we talked in a prior conversation, you said your dad had a little bit of similar advice about pursuing your passion in your free time. Can you tell me how having a different career, if that affected your identity as a songwriter, and kind of what was the impact of it?
Sure. I'm a firm believer that as songwriters, a lot of it is lived experience in the collections and snippets of things. And watching a previous episode of this podcast, hearing another songwriter talk about collecting little bits and putting them into songs, and certainly I can resonate with that. But yeah, my dad gave me some great advice, and I know some musicians would probably say, to really make it, you got to go all in. But it's nice that, for me and how I've approached it, to have the stability with other ventures in life, and to be able to have music be sort of like a second job, but also just such a passion project and hobby, take some of the stress away from it and really allows it to just be fun and fulfilling. And it's been just a wonderful journey.
That's awesome. All right, I think we should start getting into the lyric breakdown.
Let's do it.
So at this point of the show, I read your lyrics to you, and then I'm just going to give you the space to talk about where your head was when you wrote them, or any little anecdotes you would like to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the first verse of She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining. She's only sleeping when it's raining. Can't find the peace in the sunshine. It ain't worth no explainin'. It's been this way for quite some time. She's only sleeping when it's raining. The rolling thunder she pays no mind. Everyday tasks, they are so draining. Wishing she could sit and rest a while. I would love to hear you talk about those lyrics.
Thank you, and I appreciate the space to do this. So much, I think, of especially the first verse, candidly does relate to my own experience. about 2 summers ago, really seeing my anxiety come to a head in the way that it presented in my own life. And so some of those lyrics of, being distracted and not being able to even notice thunder and the rain, that even when I was quote unquote resting or in a resting position, my mind would race. I'd have ruminating thoughts, and I really struggled to sleep or to really rest in a meaningful way, which only exacerbated the anxiety due to fatigue and sleep deprivation, working on a sleep deficit. And so a lot of those are just the ways that anxiety has presented itself in my own life. And not even, I've always felt like when I'm my most anxious, it's like there's this glass wall in front of me. And I can see that, I think one of the frustrating parts about anxiety is still being able to recognize that your life is good, that you have so many blessings around you and so many great things going on. But sometimes the brain, like any other organ, it just doesn't get there on its own, and you need help, whatever that looks like. And that was sort of where I was at before, having the support of an incredible wife and family around me to kind of give me the nudge that I needed and the support to take that next step to take care of myself.
So I've heard you kind of talk about changing. You just said this was through lived experience, but it's called She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining. Could you talk about why you chose to make the person in this a female?
Yeah, I thought that it just fit lyrically better. I don't like to tell a ton of stories about myself. I don't view my songwriting or much of what I do as about me. And so I wanted to write it from the vantage point of another person, another character. I think sometimes when you take it off of yourself, it gives you the freedom to be creative and certainly, not to put the cart in front of the horse, but, some of the other lyrics are more imagery based on how I've seen anxiety present in other people's lives. And very rarely is a song just about one very, very specific thing. Can be and has been. But all in all, with this song, there's some different influences. So it's not just a song about me.
I want to touch on what you said about the imagery. Most of your songs, if not all of them, all of the ones I've heard tell a story, have some sort of storyline. In this one, I feel like there is this very strong imagery. It's like you're almost telling it more abstractly. Why did you choose to tell the story in a less straightforward manner?
I think anxiety and mental health challenges are very rarely straightforward. They're complex, they're nuanced, they're difficult, and the answers aren't always incredibly obvious. And so it felt apropos for this song to leave it a bit more ambiguous and less straightforward. And I trusted that folks that listened to it would be able to pick that up without it really needing to be sort of spelled out.
Okay, you want to get into the next part?
Let's do it.
The next part is the chorus, and the chorus goes, "No one can remember when it all began. There's a feeling of desperation. They don't want to lose a friend. Everyone thinks that they know how to help, but they never really listen, never let her be herself."
I think especially toward the end of the chorus, what I've learned being married to someone who works in the mental health profession, being a part of organizations that stress the importance of, in particular, I think men's mental health. It's amazing how sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen. And give people the space to feel all of their feelings. And I've known many people in my life who've come from it from a place of great intentions, wanting to step in and help, and they think they know, but it's not a one-to-one for everyone. Different people need different things, whether it's a distraction, a good cry, a shoulder to just lean on, or to not talk about it at all. And so that sort of highlights that at the end. Certainly, I think with the "no one can remember when it all began," everything gets fuzzy when you struggle. Because everything is just so hard to do, and you spend so much of your time, I have found, when I felt my most anxious, most depressed, that I'm in survival mode, that I don't feel like I'm really thinking about much other than those ruminating thoughts, the worries, the concerns, whether it be work, relationships, life in general. And I think the worst part of it is it steals you from those moments, because you've just such a hard time being present because your mind is elsewhere. And so in that way, it's sometimes hard to remember, when did this even begin?
So sorry to do a bit of an abrupt topic change, but I have a different question. You say that you find joy and fulfillment through giving back to your community, like with volunteering and philanthropy. Do you feel like songwriting is a way of giving back to your community or giving back to people around you?
I don't know quite as much if that's how I approach the songwriting process. It's interesting. On one hand, I do a lot of this for myself because it is fulfilling and it's how I express myself. I know we've talked, and if people look up my catalog, you can see a song like Hound Dog Song, which is just a love letter to my dog, who is like my best pal. And, that's a way of, he howls in the song, and as much as it's fun and it's a fun story to tell, it captures him for the rest of my life, and I get to keep those pieces of him, and that's important to me, and he's important to me, and that's why anyone that sees, anything I've built around the brand of Augustine is going to see that he's a meaningful part of that, because he's a meaningful part of me. But I will say the performing side of it is where I really feel like there's opportunities for deep connection. I've had the thrill of playing my local farmers market this summer, and just connecting, the joy in seeing kids come up and dance, or just be infatuated that, they're seeing someone play an instrument, seeing your neighbors and other community members and playing a request that they enjoy. Music is meant to bring us together, and we're a communal species from the time that we started as humans. We got by and gained our footing by hunting, gathering, and being together. And so a lot of the things that I look to do in my life, whether it be through volunteerism efforts or music, is with the goal of human connection.
That is beautiful. I really love that. A lot of the questions I think of, I don't have answers for. But I think now my answer is the music brings together the community, and that is special and can't ever be taken away. So you mentioned Hound Dog Song. Not all of your songs delve so deeply into deep topics like this one.
Right.
Can you talk about the diversity in your inspirations, and also what kind of stories you're trying to tell through your songwriting?
Yeah, they are, for the most part, deeply personal, whether it be my own lived experience or the experiences of folks around me, and just capture, and a lot of it's influence of the music I listen to. And I think it's important to have different stories and different songs and different sounds. There are some artists that I feel like are very talented, but a lot of their songs sound the same, and they sound somewhat repetitive. I think the artists that I appreciate the most are willing to take risks, to step outside of their comfort zone. And a song about my dog and I going on a hike shouldn't be a downer. It should be fun and peppy, and we feel this wide range of emotions, throughout the human experience. And so music is one of the things I think that creates a sharp distinction and really makes us human. And in that way, we feel so many different things. So I'm going to write many different things.
Oh, that's very interesting. And that makes me think, do you think that there are any rules regarding what people should write about? I'm going to guess, I already think I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear your explanation of it. But regarding genre or presence or whatever, is there any rules when it comes to writing songs, what you should write about, what you shouldn't write about, that kind of thing?
Nope. I I believe firmly at its core, it's supposed to be a way to express and to feel. I often tell people when I'm playing, performing, whether it's sitting around playing in my house or playing in front of people at a venue, it is when I feel the most alive, when I really feel just coursing through my entire body, the feeling of really being connected to something that matters, that I am alive, that I'm living, so no, I don't. I often say the only rules are the ones that we create for ourselves, especially when it comes to this, songwriting endeavor. So no, I don't really pigeonhole myself into any rules, and I would encourage others to do the same. And you can always refine things from there, but experimentation is how you arrive at what sounds the way you want it to sound. And, we should present ourselves unedited in some ways. I mean, it feels great to be able to just express yourself, and songwriting is such a vulnerable thing, right? And sharing pieces of yourself, sharing even the act of singing, and it's an incredibly vulnerable pursuit. And so, no, I don't think we should create a lot of rules for ourselves.
I love that. I agree with you. I think the more people express through songs, like people sometimes, songwriters, it's very common for them to get hung up on only expressing the sorrow and the sad, but they should write a song about their beloved pet, or express, what do you say, singing his praises? Like that's the line in the song, singing his praises. Because, I'm going to just talk about this song for a second. I love the line, every person thinks that they have the best dog, and they're right. Yep. And I'm like, that is totally true. Because, just animals fit so perfectly into your life. And you should write a song about things that make your life happy. Like it's a good outlet for expression for the things you don't understand in yourself, but it's also a good way to celebrate. And I think you do that in your songwriting. You have this range. I want to talk about a different thing we've talked about in the past. You've said at one point music, or your drive to make music, or maybe the word drive is too extreme, but you wanted to be a star, you wanted to be famous, but over time your relationship with that has changed, and I'll let you talk about that because I think it's interesting.
I think it's a part of growing up. When you're young and you're creating your self-concept, you're looking for a lot of external validation. You
said it, man. That's perfect.
Yeah.
But keep going, of course.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate. I have great people in my life and stability. And so for me now, the songwriting is personal fulfillment and sharing stories that I hope will resonate with people. And doing it with people that I absolutely adore. I know we talked off air. I'm working on some new songs that'll be out later this summer. And it's been fun this time around bringing more of those people that I admire and respect into the process, whether it be someone like Heather Pinson, who's a classically trained violinist who's just tremendous, to harmonies provided by folks like Katie Willis, Maggie Greenewalt, Josh Willis, who are just so exceptionally talented in so many ways. And, input, and even in the artistic process. I try to source a lot of the art around the music from local artists, one being my wife, but another is a barista and manager at a coffee shop across the street from my house named Eleni, and she's tremendously talented. And so, again, kind of keeping with the theme of community, and that this isn't all about me, and I enjoy being able to share it with others, whether it be someone as significant as my spouse or my dog, or, people that I just have a great deal of respect for because they are experts at their own craft.
I think that's wonderful. I think that actually is similar what drove me to want to make some sort of platform in the way I know how with this podcast. I think we're getting around a very interesting topic about validation through music. And I said it, I like interrupted you and I was like, you hit the nail on the head. But it is funny to grow with an art form that you like appreciate and you keep over time. And I think it is funny it's interesting how when you hear about people starting music, sometimes it's like, I just needed to get something out. Or it's, well, like, I wanted to look cool. I wanted to be cool or something like that. Which, if it starts you in your own artistic way of expression, I'm not dogging it. But I don't know. What do you think the relationship between validation and music is? And more specifically, your own music, like original music. What is where is that connecting, you know?
Yeah, I think it's important to capture feedback. And I have my own sort of test audience that anytime I'm writing or starting the studio process, that there are people that I lean on to be very candid. And I appreciate that. I do believe that as songwriters, we can get tunnel vision. But there should always be an emphasis to stay true and loyal to yourself, to your sound, to the vision that you have, because you're disingenuous if you don't, and you're likely to feel a lot less fulfilled with what comes of it. And I've always maintained that whether 2 people listen or 200 or 2 million, it just feels good to share and to put stuff out and to perform and to feel alive.
I think it does feel good to share. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. So I think we should get into the next line.
Let's do it.
She's only sleeping when it's raining. Can't feel the pain when you're asleep. She's only sleeping when it's raining. It's all she can do. She's in too deep. She's only sleeping when it's raining. Helps turn the page to the next day. She's only sleeping when it's raining. So afraid it'll always be this way.
Yeah, I think that really reinforces some of the fear and the way that your mind almost plays tricks on you or lies to you when you're struggling, that, you know, it just feels, it's easy to feel hopeless. It's easy to feel like it's not going to get better. You know, that it's so overwhelming that all you want to do is just make it stop. And yeah, sometimes sleep's the only way to kind of turn it off until you find your way through. And so I like to think of this song as sort of the storm before the sun comes back, and that low moment, and really the time period that I wrote it was that low moment before things did turn around. And it makes the song mean so much more to me personally, and hopefully presents in a way that other people can resonate with it as well. And just to encourage folks to keep going, and that it's hard in that moment. It's so hard in that moment to think that it'll ever be different, that it will always be this way, but it does get better.
That's beautiful, and it's a good message to get out there. I thought in the chorus you say, no one can remember where it all began. And in this one you say, scared it'll always be this way. And I thought that was interesting, because if when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it feels like forever. But yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah. I think I keep coming back to how overwhelming it is, and how even, you know, having, and I've always had a great support system, and having them, you know, in my own, I don't know if it's arrogance or a naivete, but, you know, my wife would help walk me through some things that would help. And honestly, so much of it was just getting up and pushing forward, and not allowing yourself to sort of settle into it and give it control. But to even if it feels like it's fighting every instinct, to tell yourself, and I think it's something I've gotten better at with my own anxiety, of, I understand this. I understand this feeling, that it is temporary. It stinks right now, but it is going to pass, and I know that, and I need to hold on to that and continue to reinforce that. And I've found over time it's allowed me to, along with other self-care methods and intervention and things like that, to get to that point of being able to, I think, truncate that timeline a little bit and to get back into the right headspace a little more quickly.
I think it's an important thing that we would both like to say here to anyone who may be listening. If you're going through something, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted friend or family member. And also, it's going to pass, and it's going to get better, and it's going to get easier. It's not going to be forever. So please keep working toward getting better. But you talked about how on your upcoming project you have revisited the song with a different composition.
Yes.
Something unique about your approach is that you do this every once in a while. You'll take a song from your past and reimagine it or give it a new life. Can you just speak about that a little bit?
Yeah. With this song in particular, just growing as a performer and as a musician, I'll make no bones about it. I'm not the most well-versed in music theory or have deeply classical training. My upbringing was a lot of church choir, school choir, playing in a cover band. So as I learn and grow as a musician, the chord progression, which She's Only Sleeping in the verse, is an F major to a C major. And I felt that was it just didn't feel like the tonality of that sound matched what I wanted to accomplish. So I switched it to an F major 7, which is a little dreamier, a little more subdued, and I think fits that messaging of the song a little better. But to your point around some of the conversations we've had about reimagining songs, I think a lot of that is I got into writing in high school when my knowledge and scope were even more limited, and a lot of I'll be honest, as a 16 to 18-year-old young man, a lot of the songs were about girls, about romance, about young love, and again, wanting to grow and move past that. Songs like Buy You a Rose still stayed somewhat thematically similar, although now it's much more a song of gratitude and finding your forever partner and kind of looking back and saying like, wow, everything I dreamed of as a young person and finding that person and building this life is actualized. And it's literally like the feeling of walking down the street and whistling and just feeling good about life because you have that person. Or a song like Early Grave, which was sort of a lovey-dovey song that now tackles some serious issues around substance use disorder and addiction and things like that. And those are all stories I think are important to tell, and it just felt right to tell.
Do you feel like you do that with newer stuff, or, you obviously just said you do a little bit, but is it only when you're in a different life stage that you revisit it, or do you feel like how big is the time gap between revisiting songs?
It's a great question. I think it's been so much up front because the last 2.5 years have been sort of where I've really fallen back into writing music, and now approaching it with a much more sharpened focus around wanting to release music, wanting to build a brand around it, get out, perform, build a book of business, gig. So I think there was a lot of consolidation in what I wanted that to look like. And I don't know what that'll look like now in writing moving forward. I haven't done quite as much writing lately with, working on a lot of the production and behind the scenes stuff with, the upcoming album. But I could see that absolutely being something that continues on. And I think it's indicative of who I am as a person in earnestly and consciously wanting to continue to seek ways to make things better, whether it be within myself, within my community, within my marriage. How do I grow? How do I be better each and every day?
So we have a bit of a parallel story in a bit where you started writing songs and had a respite and then came back to it. And I have a similar story where I wrote songs up until a certain point and then took a break for about 3 years or something. But when I came back to it, I had such a much more healthier point of view that I rewrote a couple lines to a couple of my songs because they were so extremely nihilistic that I was like, I don't want, I wanted to stay true to the person who wrote it.
Sure.
But I didn't want to put that line out there because I didn't want other people to like, you know what I mean? Like I had a line in a song, I think the song's called No Man, but I say, no respect or authority will be given without reason. If I have to earn it, so do you. No love, no sympathy. I don't need it. That's the truth. Well, I took the no love, no sympathy, and I was like, I don't remember what I changed it to, but I was like, I need to change that because that's like I believed it wholeheartedly at the time, but now I'm like, that is like, I do agree that respect and authority should be given and not taken. But I don't know. It just kind of, I found that interesting because as I relearned my catalog, there were songs I was like too uncomfortable to play because of how negative they were. And I don't know, there's this duality of keeping true to that person and also not wanting to put extreme negativity out in the world. But I like your method of revisiting it from your current point of view or from a different storyline.
I think you presented that incredibly well. I mean, it's not that I didn't like the old music. It was just a different person telling a different story at a different time. And I wanted to tell the stories that the present day Augustine, if you will, wants to tell. And I do think, it's a tough line to toe because you want to stay true to who that person was in that time and not betray the feelings and the expression that they had in that moment. But, we are both still young enough that we have a lot of road ahead of us, hopefully. But we've already lived to some extent. And I think now as someone who's, in their early 30s, a lot of that music was written during adolescence. And so my perception of the world is so tremendously different, through my collegiate experience, getting into a career, into a marriage, seeing older family members, depart and leave us, going into different phases of life. Your understanding of the world changes, but also the world has changed in that time. So it's a tough line to toe. And, I don't posture that the way that I've gone about it is the right or correct way. It's just the way I've done it. And I encourage, hopefully what resonates with folks as they watch and listen to this is you should stay true to yourself in this endeavor.
Yeah. I think another takeaway would be that you don't have to feel pressure to make new things. If you can remake old things or that things don't have to be stuck in time. And I think that's interesting.
And that the timeline, again, in the spirit of not creating rules, timelines are arbitrary. And, the only success is dependent upon expectations. That's what my mentor always says. And so, the expectations we place on ourselves are often a lot more harsh and cruel than the ones others place on us. And so I've really tried to be mindful of that through the process of I hold myself to a high standard. I'm, someone who is not quite a perfectionist, but wants to push to put their best foot forward. I feel, especially when I'm performing, that I owe it to the people that are in the room. But you got to give yourself some grace. At the end of the day, this isn't life or death. It's songwriting. It's supposed to be meaningful and fun, and there is challenge to it. And there is, you want what you create to sound good and you want people to enjoy it. But again, it's, through the lens of, at the end of the day, feeling the fulfillment of doing something that just feels right within your soul.
Yeah. I like that. What did you say about expectation and success?
Success is dependent upon expectations.
I love that. I think more people should hear that.
Yeah.
So we're getting around to the end. I always like to ask this question to all the people that come on my podcast. What advice could you give a fellow songwriter?
I think in line with what we just wrapped talking about is to take the pressure and expectations off yourself. and to really think about why you want to do it. And hopefully that answer is something in line with creativity, expression. I think in our society, everything is so commodified. I mean, I do make some extra money playing gigs around town. I do consider it sort of a side hustle or a second job, but that's not the role it plays in my life. It is an outlet to really feel joy, to connect with people. So find what that why is for you, and don't allow the world around you to push you away from that why and what really matters to you. Because there's so many things that we have to do, that we are obligated to do. This is something I want to do. And I hope that for anyone who's listening, that it's something you want to do, and that you allow yourself to be truly authentic to yourself and to give yourself the permission to be vulnerable with yourself. I firmly believe it'll be deeply enriching and fulfilling if you're able to position your mind in that way.
I agree. I think that's beautiful. We have talked about it just a little bit all over the podcast, but I'd love to hear about your new project coming out soon.
Yes, and I know that folks attached to this wonderful podcast and project will hear a very dressed down version of Be With You, which is a single that'll be out soon, and a song on an upcoming album that'll be titled Horizon. And it's going to be a fun project. We've put a lot more production value into it, myself and the incredible Josh Willis, who is my producer and quickly has become one of my dearest friends, someone that I love and respect dearly. This one, you talked about earlier, the EP this past fall and the fall of 2025 was very much, there's some experimental genre bending, but still very folk at the heart of it and very singer-songwriter. This one's got some poppier, lovier songs. This one's got some edgier, harder songs that delve into rock, or maybe even almost like rock opera performance type stuff.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, there's one song we've been working on, the title track Horizon, where some of the feedback on the harmony layers, people have been like, is that Queen? Is that, which I'm not comparing myself to Freddie Mercury in any way, shape, or form. But we took some liberties and we tried some new things, and but there are still a couple folk staples. Like I said, we brought in Heather Pinson, who is so talented on the violin and is a great friend, and was able to zhuzh up some fiddle sounds on some of the more folky sounding songs. But we had a lot of fun with this process and put a lot into it. And I'm really excited to see what folks think about it. The first single's out already in Key West, which is very island, very fun, very sort of like
very fun.
Zach Brown Band, Jimmy Buffett kind of, we took a trip a couple years ago down there and I fell in love with the place. We're going to go back next year. And so again, stories are capturing the different parts of the human experience. And so this album is true to that there's some heavier introspective music, including the re-release of She's Only Sleeping When It's Raining. And there's just some really fun songs. There's another one, Buddy Boy, which is another track about midnight, who's my dog. But it's meant to emulate sort of sitting around a fire in Appalachia, and there's some mandolin, some fiddle, some guitar, and some percussive elements. And it's supposed to just be like friends sitting around a campfire writing a song on the fly. So I think it'll be fun.
I think we're all excited to hear it, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know what everyone is thinking right now. They're panicking because they don't know where to find you. But have no fear, because we'll have everything linked in the description, of course. And also to see all of our content we filmed with Augustine, you can check out our blog article. We have a very talented blog writer who writes very wonderful blogs. So swim on over to our website and check that out. Thank you so much for coming out and taking the time to talk with us today.
This was a genuine pleasure. I so deeply appreciate what you and your crew are doing to amplify local music, to amplify singer-songwriters. I think the last thing I'll share is that one of the biggest things I've discovered in immersing myself more in the music scene in Western Pennsylvania is, numbers on streaming or the big venues you play doesn't define your sound and how talented you are. That there is talent all around us in this world. There are people who are telling incredible stories, who are incredible instrumentalists, vocalists, lyricists. So my last call to action, I guess, for anyone listening is to check out your local music scene. You don't have to give all that junk fee money to Ticketmaster. You can find those people that are writing incredible music and playing in incredibly intimate venues. And I think you all are doing just a tremendous job of amplifying those voices.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You can also find more Pennsylvania songwriters on 80 Unplugged. Watch our other episodes. If you've enjoyed this conversation, we always have interesting, thought-provoking conversations around songwriting on this platform, so please check out our other episodes. Thank you so much again. Check out Augustine, check out his blog, and have a great day.